Welcome to the Private Lender Podcast with your hosts from Hard Money Bankers, Jason Balin and Chris Haddon. This podcast is sponsored by hardmoneymastermind.com.
Hey everyone, Chris and Jason here, Private Lenders Podcast. Thank you for checking out the show wherever you may be watching or listening. Real quick before we get started, we are gearing up for our next Inner Circle Mastermind meeting early November in Nashville. We're pretty much full. We might have room for another lender or lending company. If you're interested, check out Hard Money Mastermind innercircle.com to learn more. Okay, today we're talking about simplicity of purpose in your business. In our case, that means creating the best private lending solution in the market. Over the years, that has meant different things. And we didn't totally go into this niche, into this business with that specific game plan of how do we create the best private money lending solution. It's kind of, you create a company out of necessity and desire and what you want to grow. And if you are focused enough on one thing specifically, like we mentioned here, then good things can happen over time. And it's interesting too, how it means different things at different seasons of the company's growth and trajectory, right? Like for example, creating the best private money lending solution in 2000 and 2007 and through 2008 and 9 really just meant having capital and being able to close deals. That's what it meant at that time. And it's going to grow and mean different things in the future. We're going to cover all this stuff. But yeah, I mean, after the 2008 crash, there was so little liquidity in the market. Just having funds and being able to close deals made you the best player in the market, even in a big area like DC Metro, right?
Yeah, and I think, it's interesting because we see a lot of different seasons, and it's kind of deja vu for us of what happened to us in the past based on a lot of the Hard Money Mastermind members that we chat, we're fortunate enough to talk to and chat with on a regular basis, because they're in a different spot in their business than the next person is compared to where we are. And it's not better or worse, right? It's just a different spot. What's relevant to somebody, at a $1 million portfolio is different than a $5 million portfolio to a $20 million portfolio to a $50 million portfolio, right? Like there's different things that you have to concentrate on. There's different things that you have to worry about inside that particular thing. Like Chris said, we just had to worry about, let's get deals in the door, let's get capital in the door, and let's close it. And we learned along the way. And, we woke up once and we're like, wait a second, like we're doing draw requests and we don't even have a draw request. Okay, let's stay up all night and figure out a way to do that. So we have one for for the next one. And it went from a PDF draw request that we faxed/emailed to people. They would fill it out and fax/email back to, okay, this is silly, let's do it on a Word doc, to, okay, this is silly, let's do something on a web form. Okay, this is silly, like let's do something that's a little bit better. So I think related to simplicity of purpose is understanding kind of where you are in the market and then doing things very, very simple. Like I love the terms like be the best at the basics and keep everything simple. And I think that's so relevant in business and life and sports and everything. Like just keep it freaking simple. Like too many folks are overcomplicated and they're running before they're crawling or before they're walking in this business. And like I think we see it with a lot of other mastermind members. I'm like, listen, man, you're not necessarily ready for that yet. I get it, and you want to think ahead, but don't try to overwhelm yourself. Like, let's keep it simple. Like, spend a lot of time on marketing to try to find opportunities, continue to capital raise, and do basic, easy, simple deals that are in your wheelhouse, and grow from there.
Yeah, it's easy to get ahead of yourself. If you have the personality of an entrepreneur, like you immediately start thinking about all the other things this could expand into and reeling yourself in and dialing in on that one purpose is a very, very useful exercise. And that was a good example you brought up with the draws. I mean, even going from like sending a check to sending wires for draws. There you go. It's a very, very simple thing and a good upgrade. So as the years went on, we had the basics of a lending company, even though we were doing everything, and we started to slowly hire people and build out the team as the volume called for it. And then I remember we brought on a business coach because the company was growing. Those first several years, it was kind of doubling each year. And that comes with interesting challenges of efficiencies and accuracy and how to do everything well. And the business coach helped us a lot with handling a growing company and not screwing it up. And here's the important things that somebody who has done the same thing in the past can advise you on. So like when we were building out our brand and all of our marketing stuff, and at first it was just absolute necessity of we need the phones to ring so that we can get leads, so we can close deals. And then it evolves into, okay, how can we create the best experience for anybody who visits our website? How can we provide value? Like we're not just sending out any kind of marketing pieces that say, hey, give us loans. Here are the loans that we closed. All right, well, now we're providing value to the audience. We're being a better private money solution than the competitors are in every little way that we can pick apart the company and do that. And oftentimes, and I say that to this day with our staff, we're about 10 people between the partners and our back office staff. Managing our operations is oftentimes not about addition, but about subtraction. What can I take out of people's processes? Like what can we remove that's unnecessary to make our experience for our borrowers, for our team, for our capital investors, the best it can possibly be? And that's kind of the day-to-day obsession, but across the whole company, right? And
yeah, being a private lender is not brain surgery. It's not the hardest thing in the world. Running a hard money lending company is not the hardest thing in the world, but folks make it hard and in essence do extra work or make their employees and their borrowers and their capital investors do extra work when it might not be necessary. And you might want to keep it simple for some of them. I'll give you an example. Like if you're doing a loan with a borrower, don't ask for stuff that you don't need, or don't have them fill out unnecessary documents that you might not need. Keep it simple. Like for those of you who have gone through the masterclass and stuff in the Hard Money Mastermind group, we, a lot of the stuff that we do within scripting and origination in that section is like, I don't need the borrower to fill out a loan application because I'm on the phone with them and I ask them questions, right? I'm asking them questions that in essence is a loan application, right? You don't need to go down the process of going through things, because if you're doing it the right way and it's conversational, you're getting all the information that you need from the borrower. So that's like one very simple hack to save time for you / save time for the borrower and giving them unnecessary work. During scripting, if the borrower doesn't have any capital to contribute into the deal, there's nothing that we can do for them, right? Be transparent with them and communicate with them and tell them that, right? So there's no need to someone asked us the other day, like, what do we do related to like a CRM and stuff like that and creating loan files? And it's like, we don't really need all of that stuff because the majority of the borrowers that we talk to either aren't qualified at this time or they don't have the capital or the deal doesn't work. Maybe they don't accept our terms. So like, you don't need to create a sophisticated back-end system, for something. So I guess to sum that up, it's an easy business and do it kind of, do it, make it simple, for it. There's enough attention to detail and there's enough important stuff to spend time on, crossing your T's, dotting your I's that you want to spend your time on, that you want your employees to spend your time on. So some of like the little things that don't really make too much of a difference either way, maybe cut that out of your process and
for sure.
Save time and headaches.
I remember another example from the early days where somebody who was working for us at the time, we got a lead that was, somewhere in our general area of where the office was then. And he was like, hey, let's go check out the property and, see what we can do. And Jason was like, why would we go check out the property right now? We need to have a conversation with the borrower.
Good example.
And see if the deal will even work based on the borrower's numbers. And
Good
then
example.
if we're in, right? And then if we're in the range of numbers of a deal that could work and they commit to terms and everything else, sure, then we can go check out the property, no problem. But we're not just going to go drive across town and go look at a property before we know if there's a deal to be made or not.
That's a very good example of people that I talk to. Is they'll talk to a borrower. All right, let me come out to the property and let me see what we can do. And it's like, what do you mean? What if the borrower doesn't have any cash? What if they're completely overpaying for it? Here's another thing, and this happened today, where a mortgage broker reached out to one of our partners and talked about a potential deal, and it was a mixed-use building. It was complicated, right? There was a lot going on in it, and I'm like, listen, dude, I understand that this mortgage broker wants to be involved, and it's just preliminary information right now, but you got to get on the phone with the borrower and understand the full story. The borrower's story was completely different than the broker's story. And the purpose wasn't to cut out the broker, right? The broker can be involved. They want to get paid. No problem. Happy to do it. We didn't bypass the broker and just call the borrower. We said, hey, let's schedule a call with the borrower so we can understand exactly what's going on with the project, right? If we went down that road of this is what the broker told us, let's do this, let's apply a term sheet, we would have wasted hours. Instead, we picked up the phone, scheduled a call with the borrower, had a 5-minute conversation, got down to the nitty-gritty of exactly what works, what doesn't work, terms, how much cash they're going to need in the deal, things like that. And the deal's not going to work. And that's fine, right? Yeah. We're not trying to make...
Many of them don't. Most of them don't.
Most of them don't, exactly. So I think there's endless examples like that. So I challenge you to think through your process of what you're overcomplicating and just make it simpler. And a lot of private lenders, especially at the beginning, when they have when they have small pipeline syndrome, call it, and they just have low deal flow, they try to do whatever they can to make every single deal work. And unfortunately, that's just not going. It's just not realistic.
Yeah, I mean, throughout the lending operation, there are so many good examples of this, and that a lot of us have lived through, during the growth of our companies. Another one related to investor relations and capital and all that stuff, since that's my world mainly. I knew that early on I needed a better solution than QuickBooks and spreadsheets and cutting checks. It was all just too hard to see and touch and know what's going on for us and for the capital investors. Like, checks are too slow. There's no reason to be mailing checks when there's so many good electronic solutions out there, right? So many better, faster ways to move money. I knew that I needed to provide our capital investors the basic information on their loans inside their portfolio so that they wouldn't have to ask me, right? What loans are outstanding, what paid off, when am I getting paid, who's due next? That can all be accomplished. The reason why we had to move to servicing software like the Mortgage Office, and a lot of people in the Inner Circle group use Automator. One of the main reasons for that is so that you can have proper reporting to investors so that proactively answers any questions they might have. They get a monthly statement. They know with just one line per loan what's going on, right? Their loan amount, their payment amount, the next due date, the maturity date. It's answering a lot of questions for them once a month so that they don't have to ask you. And then you have to spend your time answering questions that could be answered in an automated fashion, right? And then same with those payments going out, just speeding up. Anytime you can speed up a process by making it electronic, like email instead of, regular mail, or ACH or wire instead of sending checks, like, without a doubt, do that. Like, that's how business runs these days. Being able to see everything, how transparent it is, how seamless it can all work is a huge step towards creating the best private money solution.
Yeah, I mean, and think about these big institutional backed lending operations that we all are very different than, right? They're using institutional capital. We're all using private capital. It's very, very different. But think about how they operate on a large level. They're organized. They have good processes in place. They use good tech. All of that is doable at a very small budget for us small private lenders. So you can learn from them on that side, right? They have good systems in place. It's mandatory to set up ACH. They have a lead flow funnel internally to keep the borrower very simple. They're very simple solutions to work with. They have a process in place. So think about that side, but then bring it back down to the local lender who has more flexibility, who's going to pick up your phone call and things like that. Like that's kind of who you should strive to be. You're a local lender, you lend in your local market. I control capital. I make the underwriting decisions in-house, but at the same time, we have a freaking well-oiled machine that it's run that like, you're not hand delivering checks to us. You can be set up on auto pay. Construction draws can be done in one day, right? So they have a construction draw process that doesn't happen quickly, but they have a good process in place, but they're too big to be able to handle it quickly. You can handle it quickly. So, you can use this as a sales tool, as well. So think about, write down on a piece of paper or on a notepad some of the things that you wish you have in place inside your business to make it more efficient for your borrowers, to make it easier for your borrowers, to make it easier for yourself, easier for your staff, and just chip away at them one by one, right? Hey, I don't have a great draw schedule process. Let's figure out a way to make this thing easier, better, right? Like internally, our process is they go out on our website, they fill it out, very, very detailed of what they've done, what they need. They can put detail, they don't have to put detail, whatever they want to do, whatever keeps it simple. It goes to our portfolio manager, it goes to our in-house property inspector. In-house property inspector immediately calls them or texts them, hey, is this on lockbox? Are you going to be there? Let me come out to the property. And very, very proactive. I was just thinking about this as we've talked. We could even put an auto text feature in place that as soon as they fill out the form, they get a text message that says, hey, call to schedule, but it doesn't matter. We proactively reach out to them to do that. And they try to get draws in a day or two, right? We're like proactively knocking down their door of like, hey, you asked for help, let us help you. So think about different things in place that you can do inside your business to make your life, your borrower's life easier, your life easier, your capital investor's life easier. Chris's example was great, right? Like Chris doesn't get bombarded with calls from 100 capital investors that we have behind the scenes, because it's a very laid out approach of, hey, great, monthly payments coming in. Oh, great, here's my monthly statement with all my loans and what's going on with them. That's automated through the system that comes out. So the more of those things you can put in place and layer that with, you're a real person, not a robot. This isn't all run by technology. You're blending, the online digital side with the offline, you doing the work, and you're local and you're happy to help people side, turns into a real winning business.
Yeah. Another quick example, as I'm thinking through some of the stuff in the process, is early on when we were having loan docs done by the attorney, it would require phone calls with the attorney and the paralegal and talk about how it's being structured and who's this, who's that, borrowers, guarantors, basic loan structure that we ended up switching to a pretty simple form. It's about a 2-page form that gives the attorney's office all the information they need to prepare loan documents and all the states that we lend in, which is 6 or 7 states. It pops right out of our loan sheet, which was another upgrade. It's, auto populates with all the information from the loan that we've already entered for term sheets and everything else. And there's no conversation required. We forward that document along with the title work and the entity documents to the attorney's office. And within a day or so, maybe 2, they pop out loan documents, no conversation required, right? So just like thinking through every part of the loan process, because there are moving parts, right? When we're talking about funding loans, servicing them, investor relations, there's a lot of stuff that happens in each transaction. And how do we condense that down and simplify it, make it more efficient? That's really our job. That's our purpose, right? And so it's moved in a very cool direction related to the inner circle group, because now we get to not only share our process and how we do everything and how we've crafted this over the years, we get to learn from everyone else as well, because there's a good chance they're going to have a little tweak here and there that we weren't aware of that we can add into our process and make our private lending solution just that much better. So that learning from the other people in the group in different areas has been incredibly valuable for that reason.
Let me add one more thing related to just the term purpose and simplicity and creating the best private lending solution. This business can be run any way you want it to be run, right? You get to make the rules, right? You can just have your own personal capital that you want to deploy responsibly. Maybe you don't want to deploy any of your capital and you want to, find local private capital investors to lend their money out and make the arbitrage. You can do that as well. Maybe you want to deploy, do 1 deal a month and make some passive income. Maybe you want to do 50 deals a month. It doesn't matter, right? Like you figure out the way you want to do it. So So the point of all this is the big word of purpose is figure out what purpose you want to do it in. Like Chris and I have been pretty transparent that, we're trying to strive to be some sort of a self-funded operation, right? Mm-hmm. Self-funded operation. You can make twice as much money, do half as much work if you want to make the same amount of money, however you want to set it up. So it's whatever works for you. Like we found our sweet spot in our market where, we have the right amount of staff. We do the right amount of loan volume. We don't have to stress too much about, hey, what's the next deal coming from? How are we going to ramp up? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? So figure out what works for you. And it seems like a lot of the private lenders come in around that $10 million mark where they're like, hey, I like this operation right now. It's either me and a staff member, and I have a good business model. I don't have a lot of overhead. I don't have a lot of payroll. But again, that's up to whoever, whatever you want and whatever your purpose is. And I think you'd be surprised. You can do a lot more volume and make a lot more money with a lot less overhead and a lot less headaches if you follow the simplicity of the business and be purposeful of what you're doing. You can still provide the borrowers and your capital investors very, very good customer service and attention to detail, and do it the right way. And you'd be surprised. You can do a lot of volume with very little resources if it's, set up properly and you actually have a system in place. I mean, no one can be the jack of all trades, right? Oh yeah, lend on land in, Nevada, then I do fix and flips here, and then I do rentals here. And that's a mess. Like, have a clear purpose and a clear type of deals. Like, I can tell you in 13 seconds exactly the type of deal that fits our mold perfectly. And that's what our platform is. When a deal that's outside of our box comes in, that's not necessarily to say that we're not going to do it or completely just pass on it when there could be an opportunity. But you've been in this situation, like it's a little bit of brain damage to do an outside the box deal, even if it's very profitable, when you have a platform of a very, very simple type of deal that works, that only takes you 2 minutes to do. So think about that as well. The words simplicity and purpose are big, powerful words in this conversation.
Absolutely. Hopefully you guys can take some of these things away from today's episode and apply them in your business. If you do want to learn more about everything we're doing with the Inner Circle, check out Hard Money Mastermind, innercircle.com. And we'll see you here next time on the Private Lenders Podcast.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast. Please note that the opinions stated by all the speakers on this show are only opinions and not intended for legal, financial, or accounting advice. Please make sure to always check with your own legal, accounting, and financial professionals. If you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast, we'd appreciate it if you would spread the word. Make sure to check out hardmoneymastermind.com, the #1 free community for new and experienced private and hard money lenders.